are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Please stand by.
Operators are standing by.
You're gonna be okay, kid. You're gonna be okay.
Nathan Heskey.
Yes, Dale Downton.
Did you ever imagine that Wally P. Pfister, the cinematographer of Christopher Nolan, did you ever think he'll be making his own film?
The thought never crossed my mind.
Well, man, if he didn't make a film, do you reckon it would have been a good one?
You'd imagine so.
Wow, this film came along and it proved you wrong, Nathan. Let me back up a little bit. Let me back up just a little bit. This is the Honeydew Podcast reviewing Wally Pfister's first ever movie, Transcendence. My name is Dale Downton. I'm joined today by Nathan Heskey himself.
Hello, listeners, once again.
Man, this film Transcendence, I mean, I was quite looking forward to this when I first heard about it. It has a good concept to it. Johnny Depp portrays a character called Dr. Will Castor, who's walking towards a goal of creating a machine that combines all the knowledge of the world, I guess, into this one machine.
Yeah.
Good concept, I thought, but as I think we can agree, the execution of it wasn't as clean as we would have liked to have thought.
It sure wasn't.
I mean, I gotta say, I'm not a fan. I gotta say straight up, I'm not a fan of Johnny Depp. I'm just not. Especially in the past few years, he's played these kind of weird, over the top roles. He basically doesn't act anymore. I'll say this one good thing: it was good to see him actually being a character in this film.
Yeah.
Rather than being, Jack Sparrow or Tonto. But
Oh, Tonto.
Right.
That was really bad.
Bad memories, but it's a shame that when Johnny Depp finally just decided to act, it's in a film like this, man. I gotta say, I didn't like this film, man. There were good things about it, but I just didn't like this movie. What about you, Nathan? What's your initial reaction to Transcendence?
Every time I saw this trailer when we was in the cinema, I was just like, I just had that feeling about it. And it wasn't something I was looking forward to, but as any film, I always challenge it to prove me wrong from my initial kind of thoughts of seeing the trailer and whatnot. And it didn't prove me wrong.
No.
I was really bored. I mean, it wasn't the counselor bored.
No.
It will never. I'm waiting for a film to reach that high. Well, that depth.
Reach that high, man. I hope nothing reaches that low again.
So it will. We know so it will come up. But yeah, I was really bored in this film, but it did have a good premise.
Yes.
And there was some really cool themes brought up and concepts, but it's a shame that they wasn't fully explored within the film. It only kind of touched on the surface. They dipped the toe in there instead of just kind of really getting into the nitty gritty of what they were trying to kind of tell the audience about and what the film was truly about.
Well, it's true, man. This does have a good message behind it. It has good themes. It addresses today's society really well.
Yeah.
The film starts off with all these good messages, and the messages seem to become lost as the film goes on, as does any common sense or anything good. I mean, I would say this. I like the first half hour of this movie. It does have pacing issues, but I wasn't bored for the first half of the movie. But it's when you get into that second half, the movie slows down beyond belief. I mean, it doesn't help that the first half of the movie is so fast paced that you come to a screeching halt.
They just completely skip over any character development at the beginning and get like any kind of really introduction to the characters, so the audience, you kind of have this, build a connection and you start to care about the characters, because I didn't care about any of these characters. So when it comes to a point of Johnny Depp getting shot, his character, I didn't care. Because it just went by too fast. It was, I didn't even know what was going on.
It's funny that because I agree with you. All the characters are really just dull. I couldn't get. I mean, these characters could have got killed off like straight away, and I would not have cared. And it doesn't help that the acting is so just dull as well, which is weird when you think of the talent that's involved.
Yeah.
You know, Johnny Depp, Morgan Freeman, Rebecca Hall, Paul Bettany, Cillian Murphy. All of these actors, apart from Paul Bettany, I'd say to an extent, really just half-ass their performances. Rebecca Hall does try, but she comes off as trying too hard, and she becomes unintentionally funny. Morgan Freeman hasn't really tried in the past decade. That guy just doesn't act in it. He looks bored.
No,
He's
it is true. He's just playing the same character in all of his films, man.
and I've never seen a guy so pissed off to be in a movie. Cillian Murphy is just standing around, and he looks. That's not Cillian Murphy. The Cillian Murphy I know has got this kind of charm to him as an actor. This Cillian Murphy, he was even sighing when he was talking. Every scene he's in, he'll be like, "They're working for Rift, Doctor Will Caster," and even that look on his face, he has that what am I doing look. He
Yeah.
has that money look. I can see the money glowing in his eyes. But I tell you what, Wally Pfister, I don't actually find his cinematography that interesting, even in the Nolan films.
No, but I agree with you. I agree.
And it doesn't really help here. The shots that are really good here come off as more pretentious than they do genuine. And it doesn't help that these shots are in a film that just the film as a whole just feels very pretentious, and it doesn't really know what it wants to do as a whole. It knows its concept, and that's kind of as far as it goes. And it's the more the film goes on, the more stupider it gets, especially with the action scenes that come in later. I mean, you have these like I don't know what the hell to call these things. You got these, I don't know what's attacking them. You got these black strings, and they're just throwing people around, and then you got these. I don't know what these things are. There's no threat in this movie. Johnny Depp's downloading the internet and becoming everybody. Yeah, as if we haven't had enough of Johnny Depp shoved down our throats. Now he's everybody. And then you got these black strings coming out the floor, just hitting people. And then cars are flying. I don't know how these cars are just flying all over the place. And it's just like, this wasn't the same movie that it was an hour ago. Did I step into like this guy's mind? Like, but I'll say this much. Paul Bettany, it did seem like he was trying more than anyone else.
No, he was. You know, it's just he had nothing. He had no one to work with.
No,
He
not
had
even
he
Kate
had,
Mara.
he had nothing to, but yeah, that's no Kate Mara. Man, I love Kate Mara. House of Cards, she is fantastic. Every time she's on the screen, she just demands that screen time. But in this, every time I've seen her, she's got a different hair dye in her hair. Seriously, one scene, she's working in a Starbucks or something, and she's got like auburn hair or whatever. And then the next scene, she's like rogue or something. I don't know what the hell's going on in this movie.
But it's funny that I actually forgot that she was in the film earlier, because that's how forgetful these characters are.
That's what I mean.
Not only is the film forgetful, but the characters are forgetful as well. Kate Mara, how can she be forgetful? Well, this movie shows that she can be.
Well, it's just the perfect example of plot moving characters instead of characters moving the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, these characters, you just like Paul Bettany's character. He disappears for for a lot of the film, and then he
becomes Jesse Pinkman at one point.
Yeah, because he pops out a hole. Like they've been keeping him in a hole for like 2 years.
He just randomly. You make it sound like one point in the movie he just randomly crawled out of a hole. It's like, hey guys, I'm here, Jarvis.
That's kind of literally what he does. He just pops out of a hole, and a war starts going on. But anyway, one thing I will say about Wally Pfister's directing, because this being his debut, at the beginning, there's some really nice cinematography, some really nice shots,
yeah,
and that. But then I've got to agree with you on the kind of pretentious side of things, because there was these just like, just photography where just like the water's dripping from a flower, and and all these kind of shots where what does this image of this garden fence with a wind chime attached to it, what does it say about life and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so there was a bit of that kind of you're just thinking, oh come on, what does this really say about the film? It's got no real, there's no point for it to be in there. It's just kind of adding to the time where the film's feeling as long. Well, the film was a bit too long
It
as
could have
well.
been half an hour short easily.
Yeah,
But I'm glad you got onto that point because it's really weird for a film to have so many social commentaries. But I mean, this one has so many messages and so many little things that relate to society right now.
yeah,
But this film has nothing actual to say.
yeah. It doesn't
It has
expand on it.
so many messages, but it's almost as if all the messages start clashing with each other as we get to the end.
Yeah,
As it becomes a very it goes from being a bit. It seems like Bob Fister thought he was being a bit too smart with this film. But it went from being something that had a general message to say to becoming a general action flick,
yeah,
and that in itself goes against all the messages that they were trying to portray. And this was written by Jack Pagden. This is the first script he's ever done. For a big film. This is the guy I think that's doing Prometheus 2 as well.
God help us all.
So that doesn't really help the chances of us getting a
Damon
good
Lindelof, please come back.
words have never been spoken.
Please, Damon.
uh, well, I
No,
gotta say,
sorry. I know what you mean though with those themes because that was actually, as much as we didn't like the film, it
Mhm.
isn't a bad film,
no, it's not.
and it did really bring up some really cool themes and stuff, just like our relationship with technology. That was a
Yes.
big part of the film, especially at the beginning, and it kind of came across it well. Like there was a member of the audience where Johnny Depp's character's doing this lecture, and he asks, are you trying to create a god? And then Johnny Depp replies, isn't that what we've always been doing? And it was a
Mhm.
really cool thing, and it got me thinking. And that was one thing about the film. It got me thinking about, how we use technology to advance in our society, and then, but at the same time, we're kind of digressing as well.
Yes.
It's kind of got that half and half kind of thing. And so the film did tackle that, but then it kind of just, like you said, it got silly.
A bit too silly.
It was like it started off where you thought, this might be quite clever, it was quite thought provoking, but then it just forgot everything that it built up. It's because the film really should have been about this journey of a man becoming this like godlike figure,
Mhm.
and in a way, that did happen, but you don't really get to see that progression or that development because the film just throws a 2 year time skip.
Which is
And it's
unnecessary as
just,
well.
yeah, exactly. It was really unnecessary. It didn't change anything, and nothing in that 2 years. Nothing was different about where
No,
the
no.
town where they was located or the characters or anything. It was just, yeah,
Well, it's just it's when I get with the pacing as well. When he's starting to become when he's starting to become that god that he speaks about,
yeah,
the movie goes too fast for it to truly sink in.
yeah,
And then once he becomes that god, the film goes too slow for you to give a shit.
definitely,
So, and that's the problem. If this film had been, I don't know if there's a way they really could have made this film work. This is something that would have been a good TV show, a good miniseries. As a
definitely. Yeah.
film, it just doesn't work. The pacing's all off. Um,
I think it could have worked as a film. It's
mhm.
just because what it did is it kind of planted all these seeds at the beginning with all this kind of, uh, you know, all these different concepts and about how technology is harming society, and how we're trying to build this artificial intelligence and all that, and then throughout the film of Act One, it does start growing those ideas that they've planted,
Mhm.
but then they don't implement them or execute them well. It just kind of just they're loose threads when it comes
Yes,
to Act
yes.
Three, and they don't bother to tie them up, or they don't bother to explain what they've set up earlier on in the film, which is a real shame because there's some really great questions that are asked in this film with artificial intelligence, and will it take over, like stuff like that we've seen in Terminator, and we've
Yes.
seen in 2001 Space Odyssey, Mass Effect, stuff like that. It's not just science fiction, but it failed at being a good piece of science fiction.
It just became one that has very interesting questions, but
Yeah,
in a way, it kind of ignored its own questions and didn't follow through with them as the film went on. But I find it hard to think who I'd recommend this to if I would recommend it at all. It isn't a bad film. It's not The Quiet Ones. It's nothing like that. It is I would say it's a fairly decent film, but I think I would say don't see this in cinema. Wait till you catch it on wait till you catch it on TV or most likely Netflix. This will probably end up on Netflix. I'll say skip it. Skip it in cinema and wait till it's on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before at the beginning of the review, I wasn't really looking forward to this film, but I did go into the cinema, as I always do, with my eyes open and ready to be proved wrong, and then that this maybe could be a good film. And I was expecting to see Johnny Depp in a more serious role, because I'm tired of seeing him in these weird, kooky, over the top, just colourful, vibrant characters that he plays.
Yes.
And it's finally going to see him play a down-to-earth character. But I was let down there as well, because, to be fair, you don't even hardly see Johnny Depp.
No, it's just his voice.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a thing where the film fails, is if you've got this sentient, artificial being, who is like a god, and he's, controlling the internet, creating all this nanotechnology things that he does, you think, oh, okay, this is going to be cool, and there's, the dialogue's going to be brilliant. The dialogue is whack. The writing was really bad. If you want to watch a film that kind of tackles what this film tried to tackle, then watch Her. Her did it 1,000 times better back in February. And many other films have done it better. Geez, even Locke did it better, and that wasn't even a science fiction. That was just over the phone.
BMW. That was a BMW film.
Exactly, a man in a car talking, hands free. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest going to watch this film, because it's a bit of a waste of money. But then again, if I just wouldn't suggest going to see it. It's not a bad film. It just, what the trailers kind of market and try and get over to you isn't what you get in the film. Because I personally didn't get anything out of it.
No, I didn't really get anything out of this neither. Yeah, I'd say just give it a skip, because it is kind of a bore as well. And there are other movies, especially with May around the corner. There's so much other movies that deserve your money. So I'd say just wait for them and give this a miss. You're not really missing out on anything, to be honest.
No, I mean, it's a shame though with Wally Pfister being kind of under the tutelage of Christopher Nolan. You'd think that he would have picked up some lessons and
well, there are them Nolan-esque things in here. I mean, there are definitely them Nolan kind of questions that are brought up.
There is,
but
and it does have a very
Nolan.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I said Nolan knows how to keep them going, and Nolan knows how to kind of put together his stories, and he makes sure the questions are prevalent out throughout the whole film. So there are definitely the elements there with this Wally Pfister, except it seems like he hasn't picked up enough, and there are even some scenes that feel like a direct copy of the Dark Knight trilogy, which we spoke about earlier, which we won't ruin now.
No, definitely not. No.
But it just feels like he took a few stuff from Nolan.
Well, this has been the Transcendence review. It's a shame that this film couldn't transcend from, it couldn't even ascend. There was no kind of...
This is descended.
There was no lifting point. There was no, no ascension whatsoever. But we'd love to know what you think about it. So, drop some comments in if you've watched the movie, or, if you're looking forward to watching the movie or anything like that. Give us a like if you've liked what you've heard. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. The usual jargon. Anyways, I've been Nathan Heskey.
I've been Dale Downton.
And this is the Honeydew Podcast.
Bye.
Once more with feeling. Dance like there's no tomorrow.
Really, really good.